try and make it as quick as I can, but it's full of information about the 6 main stages in addiction recovery. You will find some experts focus on the 4, but those are in actual addiction recovery. These are the 6 stages, which look at even before getting into recovery. And if you're somebody who is wondering if you have a problem, then listen carefully to the stages and you may learn quite a bit. Anyway, let's get into the subject. And stage 1 of the 6 main stages in addiction recovery is called pre-contemplation. So pre-contemplation is where addictive behavior in the individual is normally still pleasant, fairly pleasant, or over the whole pleasant, or generally positive. Life is normally fairly functional still. They're able to still hold a job down, etc., etc. But they have addictive behaviors, so life's not falling apart. And because it's so functional, it puts them in this space where they don't really contemplate, and it's pre-contemplation. So they're in a space where they kind of function without thinking. And many of you that have approached me, your families are in this space. Now, under this, you get 4 types of pre-contemplators that were identified in the literature that I've researched in and seen over the years. The first is a reluctant pre-contemplator, and that's a guy who he lacks awareness that he's got a problem. He actually, as far as he's concerned, he has a drink or two, has a line or two. She, they're not really aware that it's a problem. And they got absolutely no motivation to change. As far as they're concerned, what they're doing is perfectly normal, and only crazy people want to change that and not continue the party. Then you've got a rebellious pre-contemplator, who's the guy who says, I'm not going to let go of my drink or my drugs because you're not going to tell me what to do. And by letting go of my drink or my drugs means that someone else is telling me what to do, and they rebel against that. So they will on purpose keep using and not try and change, even if it costs them in the end. They will stick to that for that stage, and hopefully their mindset and their thinking evolves. And then you have a resigned pre-contemplator. And the resigned pre-contemplator is overwhelmed by his addiction. He's maybe even tried once or twice to get out of it and change his patterns, but this addictive behavior is so strong for him that he's in a place of giving up hope of change. He's kind of just given up, and he's in a space where he says, well, I'll just stay pre-contemplating getting off of changing from addiction because I can't. This is too big for me. This is the guy who buys in often to the statement which says once an addict, always an addict. And then you've got your rationalizing pre-contemplator who, as the name says it, has rationalized his using. He has reasoned this out in his mind why his using is actually healthy. It's part of his life, it's part of his makeup, and his drinking or drugging is okay because he's reasoned this. He has rationalized this for himself, how it's just normal, etc., etc. To do what he does is normal. And what you're going to understand is all of these are mindsets within an addict, is what I'm addressing, an addict or an alcoholic. It's a mindset that is there. The person's behaving in a way that would make them, by self-diagnosis, if they were honest with themselves, a addict or alcoholic, but they're not prepared to diagnose themselves as such. Okay, so that's the first phase, which is pre-contemplation. Now the second phase is implied by stage 1, and that's the second stage in addiction recovery, or main stage, is contemplation. Now we move from where we're rebellious or reluctant or resigned or rationalizing in our pre-contemplation to where we are in contemplation. These users have realized they have a problem. The penny's dropped, that life is not what it should be. And so they've realized they have a problem, and they might even want to change, but they don't feel ready to fully commit to the journey. They're looking and they're saying, you know what, I know something's got to change, something's got to give, this can't carry on, but they're not necessarily ready to commit to the journey of recovery, and they've not formulated a particular strategy. These people won't do much about it. They'll contemplate, they'll know, and they may even verbalize or acknowledge that they need to change, but they'll actually do nothing about it. They're actually just doing, as the name says, contemplating going the recovery journey. Right, so then we move to number 3. Step 3 is preparation. So they now move from the stage where they were contemplating getting help. And this is the guy who gets to the point where he now says, no, wait, you know what, I can't just think about this. I really need help. I need to get help. And, you know, we got to just, those of us that have faith of any sort out there need to pray that more and more and more people that are addicts and alcoholics find themselves getting to the stage where they actually say, I can't carry on like this. Because we'll have less of them relapsing and dying, less chaos in the world. But they become committed and ready to take action. They may even begin to find out, to do inquiries, to go onto websites, to talk to rehabs, to find out what help is available for me out there. That's how committed they would get at this stage. They begin preparing themselves mentally, emotionally, physically to do a recovery journey. Then step number 4 is action. It's action. This is the action stage. And in stage 4, these guys would now say that real change begins. This is the stage where I book with a counselor, I book with a coach, I go into rehab, I join AA, I join NA, I book myself into an outpatient program or an inpatient program. I actually commit to the recovery journey. And so the real change begins. Most of these action stages would begin with detox. Whether you're detoxing at home because you're just enduring what you got to endure at home, or whether you're detoxing in a hospital or in a rehab facility, detox is normally where it starts, is withdrawing from the initial stage of the alcoholism or addiction. And then it's obviously followed by the longer term treatment, which is then the actual therapy that's offered in rehab. And you have 2 levels of therapy that are offered. I'm just going to briefly touch on. The one level is both in group therapy and in individual therapy, where you begin to address the underlying factors and the underlying issues that have caused the addiction. So they begin to look at childhood trauma, you begin to look at incidents and behaviors and patterns that have caused you to be where you are. Because where you are right now, whoever you are, whether you're clean, sober, or whether you're an addict, or whether you're in using, out of using, whether you're me that's years and years clean, it doesn't matter. We are a culmination of our background. And so the therapies begin to help them, in group therapies even, in discussion, people begin to become aware of what issues have driven their behavior. But at the same time, you begin to also do therapies and programs that begin to build for you the tools with which to build a sober life. Tools with which to deal better with the traumas and the issues of the past and create a different behavior. And then you go on to stage 5, which is now maintenance and relapse. Now, maintenance and relapse stage is you've got these tools, you've been in rehab, you come out of rehab. Now you've just left rehab and you've got these tools. It's now actually applying those tools. It's maintaining your sobriety. And there are some longer term programs where you begin to do the maintenance in the facility. But remember, there's a level of maintenance that only takes place the day you leave the facility. And why? Because in a facility, whether I'm there for 1 year, 6 months, 10 years, 100 years, while I'm there, I've got staff, I've got security, I've got medical staff, I've got psychologists, I've got social workers, I've got everybody working in a system that will stand between me and the drug dealer, me and the bottle store, me and the next line. But when I walk out, now I'm in society. Even my family and my support structure can't be with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for the rest of my life. Okay, we can't do that. So now, the real application and maintenance of my sobriety starts. The tools I've got in rehab or in my program, in my therapy, whatever it is, I now apply them. And then in amongst that, mixed into that equation is then the possibility of relapse. And there is a mindset around relapse that is huge to break. And that is the fact that relapse is not necessarily failure or weakness. Sometimes relapse is the jolt that we need to apply what we've learned better. And so when people relapse, and in my beginning of my stages, I would be probably about 2 or 3 years longer clean and sober if I hadn't relapsed a couple of times. But every time I relapsed, my strategy was not to say, let me go back to using. My strategy was to say, what do I need to apply different? Do I need to go to more meetings? Do I need to monitor my money? What do I need to do in order to stay clean and sober? And so relapse is often the renewed and invigorating application of the maintenance program. And then, of course, your last stage is termination. And the reality is, not every rehabilitation expert would agree with me. Although the disease of alcoholism or addiction, it remains a part of your makeup for the rest of your life, a stage it is possible to get to a point where you are recovering. So that's my opinion. You get to a stage where you feel confident in your program. You can't just be blasé. You can't go sit 24 hours a day in a pub and think you're not going to have a drink at some stage. The reality is different. But you feel some level of confidence in your program. Now, your program would have helped you to identify places you can't be. It would have made you strong against places where you have to be, but you so that you're not so exposed. It would help you plan strategies to build a life. But you would find a level of confidence and feel a level of confidence in your new program, in your newfound life that you've built for yourself in recovery. And you begin to fear relapse less because you become stronger and you realize you're putting yourself in the right place. You're putting yourself in the right position. So you're not constantly saying, no, I don't want alcohol. No, I don't want alcohol. I won't have a drink right now. Because you're not putting yourself in environments where you have to say that. The people that you expose yourself to and that you move around know that you don't drink. So it's at this stage that you've got to a point where it's an open thing in your life. Guys, this is the 6 stages, main stages of addiction recovery. And wherever you are in this process, you've got to evaluate for yourself. You've got to contemplate and evaluate what is your next move, what is your next step. There's a lot of help out there. There's a lot of people out there. But I'd like to ask you, if you've enjoyed this video, as long as it may be, please share it. Please send it to people that maybe need to hear this or would benefit by hearing this. Please follow my channel and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and feel free to contact me with any questions that you may have in this regard. Thank you, guys, and God bless and stay sober.